Hi, my name's Pete Robbins. I will be analyzing Native Son by Richard Wright through the psychoanalytical lens. Um, so, in Richard Wright's Native Son, the racial divide in Chicago, the polarized relationship between blacks and whites, as well as the racial tension in the American judicial system, all contribute to Bigger's psychological decay and sociopathy. Racism has a polarizing effect on both the oppressed and the oppressor. African Americans have been verbally and physically abused by whites for decades, which causes more and more whites to consider it normal and continue oppressing blacks. In contrast, this also forms an opposite hatred for whites in the African American communities, leading to black on white violence. The two opposite communities are unable to see the other as individuals rather than a single determined force against them, so both sides make stubborn assumptions about everyone on the other side. This creates a sort of war between races and ultimately caused the detrimental effects on Bigger's mind, which led him to kill Mary and later Bessie. After killing Mary, Bigger starts to develop into a sociopath and it seriously impacts his superego. A quote that shows this is on page 106. Now that the ice was broken, could he not do other things? What was there to stop it? While sitting there at the table, waiting for his breakfast, he felt that he was arriving at something which had long eluded him. Things were becoming clear. He would know how to act from now on. The thing to do was to act just like the others acted, live like they lived, and while they were not looking, do what you wanted. So after killing Mary, um, this incident greatly impacts his superego, which is the part of the psyche that regulates moral and ethical dilemmas. Bigger had always had a certain attitude about life, regardless whether or not that was productive. But after killing Mary, he threw away his personality and stopped being himself. He changed his behavior, and he knew that there was a certain way that society viewed him, and there was a certain way that he thought that people wanted him to act. This even further emphasizes the effect of racism on Bigger's mind because he's altering his behavior and being more moral and ethical for the sole purpose of not getting caught. However, his id, which is a person's subconscious desires and internal instincts, does not change. The author continues to show Bigger's thinking and the questionable, often violent thoughts that he has about various aspects of life. Though he does not act on these thoughts, he represses them for fear of being discovered. These repressed thoughts come back later in the book when he kills Bessie and during his trial. So, my next point is the racial divide in Chicago, um, and how that affects Bigger's psychological decay. Um, so, a quote from page 43 is: Inside his shirt, he felt the cold metal of the gun resting against his naked skin. He ought to put it back between the mattress. No, he would keep it. He would take it with him to the Dalton place. He felt that he would be safer if he took it. He was not planning to use it, and there was nothing in particular that he was afraid of, but there was in him an uneasiness and distrust that made him feel that he ought to have it along. He was going among white people, so he would take his knife and his gun. It would make him feel that he was the equal of them, giving him a sense of completeness. So this quote is from Bigger's first day of the job in the Dalton's house. Before he left his house, he debated whether or not to bring his gun to work, which would normally be a pretty straightforward decision, uh, because getting caught with a gun on your first day would not be ideal. Um, However, he decided to bring it because he thought that he would need protection while walking through a white neighborhood. This emphasizes how prominent the racial divide is in Chicago because he is willing to risk the possibility of losing his job just for his own personal sense of security. Um, so, racism creates a polarized society where neither side is able to see the other as real people, and it's bad for both whites and blacks. So, a quote that shows this is: They say we do things like that, and they say it to kill us. They draw a line and say for you to stay on that side of the line. They don't care if there's no bread over on your side. They don't care if you die. And then they say things like that about you, and when you try to come from behind your line, they kill you. So, this is a quote from Bigger when he's talking to his lawyer about his case. Bigger's hysterical emotion in this quote emphasizes how racism affects the oppressed and the oppressor because it shows that Bigger is not able to see whites as individuals in the same way that whites view blacks. Bigger can only see white people as a determined force against him, constantly pushing back. So racism seriously impacts the American judiciary system as well, and how Bigger is treated by authorities. So, a quote from the book from page 331 says, "They were bringing in Bessie's body now to make the white men and women feel nothing short of a quick blotting out of his life would make the city safe again. They were using his having killed Bessie to kill him for having killed Mary, to cast him in a light that would sanction any action to destroy him. Though he had killed a black girl and a white girl, he knew that it would be for the death of the white girl that he would be punished. The black girl was merely evidence, and under it all he knew that white people did not really care about Bessie's being killed. White people never searched for Negroes who killed other Negroes. He'd even heard it said that white people felt it was good when one Negro killed another. It meant that they had one Negro less to contend with. Crime for a Negro was only when he harmed whites, took white lives, or injured white property." So this quote emphasizes the prominent racial tension present in the American judicial system in the 1930s and how black-on-black violence is not taken as seriously as black-on-white violence. Bigger's past has been greatly influenced by his racial tension, and it is also shown by Bigger's previous encounters with the law. So throughout the book, Richard Wright has stated that Bigger has killed many times before Mary and Bessie, but he never specifically says what that was. If he's being literal, then that means that Bigger has killed other African Americans in the past, and he's not been incarcerated. So that just shows that they let him go because their killing of African Americans is insignificant to them, and they didn't care about it. So in conclusion, Bigger's psychological decay after killing Mary was due to a lifetime of racism and hatred. It's due to the racial divide in Chicago, the polarized relationship between blacks and whites, as well as the racial tension in the American judiciary system. Thank you for listening.